This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome once again from Johannesburg here in South Africa. My name is Eben Jansen. The show, of course, live broadcast from our studios here in Auckland Park. We are also live on YouTube right now with the entire show available on demand on our YouTube channel. Now today we have the General Secretary of Trade Union Federation, Nzima Vavi, with us in studio. He's here to give us his side of the story following events the last couple of days. Traffic volumes are well on the increase on roads all around the country, and travellers are implored to be safe on the roads ahead of the Easter weekend. We also look at the recent Zama deaths, 5 overnight, the rise of online fraud. We'll deal with that a little bit later, and it's World Autism Day today. We'll close the show by having a look at autism. But first, today's news with Anindoma.
Good morning, I'm Anindoma. Let's just have a look at the stories making headlines today. Chaos has erupted at a university college in northern Kenya this morning. It's believed hostages have been taken by 5 masked gunmen who also raided the university. The attack on the Garissa University College began at dawn during morning prayers. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack. Around 24 ships and a rescue helicopter are involved in a search for the remaining survivors of a Russian trawler. The trawler sunk off the Russian coast north of Japan with at least 54 sailors confirmed dead. 63 people have been rescued, many suffering from hypothermia. The freezer trawler had 132 people on board when it sank. Russian emergency services say drifting ice may have halted the vessel. Metro police officers are ready to act against those who ignore the rules of the road. This as the police department has urged motorists leaving Gauteng for the Easter weekend to be extra vigilant on the roads. Meanwhile, the traffic at Moria and Limpopo is expected to flow much easier this morning. Sunrail has constructed a 5-kilometre road at the entrance to the ZCC church to ease congestion and in anticipating for influx at the border posts.
Road safety is actually a societal responsibility. We want now to make it possible that each and every South African takes responsibility for his or her safety on the road, be it adults or children.
The man responsible for the Facebook assassination claims of Minister Colin Shabane will be in court today. Sembani Shabane was arrested after posting the collision in which the late Public Service Minister and 2 others died was planned. He's expected to face 3 charges when he appears in the Polokwane Magistrates Court. He's been formally charged with criminal injury, defamation of character and incitement. ANC Secretary-General Gwena Mantashe has urged alliance members to accept Kusatu's decision to expel Nzima Vavi. He said the ANC would not let Kusatu die. Mantashe was launching a project to translate the Freedom Charter and the ANC's constitution into isiZulu.
In the pledge, we all commit ourselves to defend the unity and integrity of the organization and its principles, combat tendency towards disruption and factionalism. Then we raise our right hand side and say, so help me the ANC. The ANC, we do the opposite.
Investigations are still underway following the discovery of the bodies of 5 suspected illegal miners. The bodies were found yesterday at a mine dump in Benoni, east of Johannesburg. Police suspect the illegal miners were attacked by a rival group last Friday. The police's Katlego Mogale says the person who managed to escape and alerted authorities is being questioned. Remember, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just search for Newsroom. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Given, over to you.
Thank you very much, Janine. Now, the fight for the heart and soul of South Africa's biggest trade union federation, Kusatu, rages on. The latest casualty in the fallout within the labour movement is Patrick Craven, Kusatu's long-standing spokesperson. Craven said he could not defend the indefensible and disagreed with the decision to axe Nzima Vavi. General Secretary Nzima Vavi, however, will not go down without a fight and is in the process of consulting his lawyers on whether or not to challenge Cosatu's decision to get rid of him. Mr. Vavi has also hinted that he will escalate the fight to the streets and the shop floor if he has to. Now, Mr. Vavi is with us in studio this morning to speak for himself. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
I'd like to start this conversation with contextualizing this whole scenario. I'd like to read you a quote that comes from the CEC from Cosatu over the weekend. It says here, he has, in reference to you, behaved in a manner which placed him above the organization as an untouchable leader. He treated the organization as his own, including the Cosatu Leadership Collective and the entire membership as his inferior subjects. The inference is that you place yourself above the law. What do you make of that from the CEC of Cosatu?
Nonsense. Rubbish. An attempt to throw as much mud on my direction with the hope that some of it is going to stick. When all of this was happening, tell me, where were they? When I reduced the Cosatu members into my subjects, how did that happen and where were they and why they didn't intervene to ensure that that is corrected? When I was acting outside the collective, why that collective would never ever raise that? Where are the minutes that will show that at some point this was the discussion? And why all of a sudden there is 2011 charges once I'm out of the federation with an attempt to try and find me guilty in the public opinion? All of that is absolutely rubbish. But look, my view is that I'm not going to go into a tit-for-tat response to all of garbage. No, I'm not, because I think it's going to be, frankly, a waste of time. Yeah. Is this what workers need now? A tit-for-tat accusations and counter-accusations on television and radio? No, I don't think that's a challenge. Workers want an organization that will fight for them in the workplace, that is uncorruptible, that stands up against the employer's abuse, that fights against labor brokers, that fights against the continuous employment of workers as temporal workers, that fights for better pay, that fights to close inequalities in the workplace in terms of pay, that fights for the principle of equal pay for work of equal value. That's what workers are asking for, not this endless battle between the leadership, accusations and counter-accusation. And that's why I've said I will form part of a effort by the unions who have now seen that taking this route is taking us nowhere, is taking workers nowhere. Let's go to the streets, let's fight against ESCOM, let's fight against the labor brokers, let's fight against the wave of retrenchments that is sweeping through the country. That's the battle, not this.
You're not going to go. You've taken the mantle that this fight needs to go to the shop floor. What do you then, in that sort of context, make of the comment made in our headlines there by Mr. Gwede Mantashe, who says, "You must now accept your dismissal and move on"?
He says so.
Yeah,
I didn't catch that. Well, that's his opinion. You can accept it and move on. I wonder if workers will agree with him.
Some say that, the critics say that you've left the CEC no option by refusing to attend. They say that you're challenging the expulsion in the sort of wrong forums. What do you make of the official acts that you've been given, the reasons for that?
Again, they exercise the factional interest and the factional rights, and they have acted in a manner that takes that forward. I have no qualms with that. But the facts of the matter is that I'm being dismissed for 2 offenses in their book. The first one, I'm saying it is unprecedented. It is wrong to dismiss 340,000 workers out of the federation they created, they love. Yeah. And you do so motivated by political reasons. The fact that NUMSA decided in its Congress not to back the ANC in the last elections can't be you want to dismiss a union for that, because there will always be different political opinions in any trade union movement. You can't dismiss workers for that. So I'm saying, if I'm added on to that list, then I will go away with a very clean conscience. It's a principled stance I'm taking. You can't dismiss unions for political differences that they should have. Secondly, I said I can't go to a meeting and pretend that it is business as usual.
Yeah.
When, no matter the number, it's no big dispute, is it 5, 6, 7, 8, it doesn't matter. Even a single union sitting outside saying, I have these reasons no longer to participate in your Central Executive Committee.
Yeah.
To me, that warrants that we should stop everything else and go back and say what have gone wrong. Let's sort the problem. For the past 3 years, leaders of the faction that have now become a majority have simply refused to have any form of discussion on any matter that they regarded as a problem. There was a process agreed to, insisted upon by them, to appoint Petrus Mashishi and Charles Nupen. They frustrated that process until it was collapsed. The former COSATU leaders intervened to say, can we have a discussion informally to try and find a solution? They would not make themselves available. The ANC intervened, produced a report, and an imperfect report, but the report that would have given us a starting point to move forward.
Yeah.
They frustrated that. They would not cooperate with it. That report is now gathering dust since it was presented in October. It have not been looked at.
Yeah.
All these guys wanted from the beginning is to achieve what they said privately in the CC meetings and in public. They want to get NUMSA out, they want to get Zwelinzi Mavavi out, and they want to get out of the federation any person who agree with their views. That's how, and then they say we want to dismantle the current COSATU in order to create a COSATU afresh. But the COSATU afresh will be a COSATU that moves away from the Congress resolutions, that is going to not to take up the pedals of workers, as the current COSATU have really not taken up any pedal of COSATU for the past 3 years.
The current COSATU stands accused in some quarters of becoming a political party. Within that context, I want to ask you this question. Could this be the end of this labour movement? If you look at the workers, they've shown an appetite for a new type of mobilization against COSATU. This is if we look at the AMCU experience that we've made within the last couple of years. When we look at this, is there a legitimate concern that the fallout for this could see fringe unions make a play?
Firstly, we must recognize this as the biggest tragedy to visit the trade union movement, but South Africa as a whole. And by the way, we're not seeing this as an isolated question. We're seeing this as an attempt to collapse, blunt, and hollow out the democratic institutions, the democratic organizations, and with a view of ensuring that there is no accountability of the leadership. Nobody can hold any person accountable. Look at the fact that the trade union movement, the youth movement, have been collapsed as we speak. Then you go to everywhere else, the SABC, the ESCOM, the IPID, the intelligence, the NPA, even the public protector is being investigated for so-called being an international agent. It's a fracas, it's a turmoil, it's a political crisis cutting across. So don't dare look at just a trade union problem. It's a problem of South Africa today. And and therefore that problem can't be solved in courts. It will have to be sorted out politically. Yeah. And that's my starting point. But then, where do we move? What do we do?
This is the question, the conclusion. The way forward for the labour movement. Is this a scenario that's beyond repair, irreconcilable? What do you see as a way forward that can in a way, solve the problems of the workers?
If there was appetite on all sides to forge ahead with unity, I will go back to say let's work on that. Because that's the first prize. But the question have to arise at this moment. On what basis do you say the other side is interested in unity? Because purging is not just about me and the 340,000. There's purging all over in some or in other unions. People are asking a question. Do you want to continue focusing on the unity and boardroom fights whilst the agenda of workers is being sidelined in the streets? And when it is now being proven daily that workers walk away from ineffectual unions that are irrelevant in any case in terms of them taking up their battles in the streets. That's a question we have asked to members yesterday to debate. Do we continue or do we begin to look at alternatives at this stage?
It looks like you are looking at alternatives already. I just want you to have a look at some of the comments and see what people are talking about on social media. Liz Maloma says, you know, for me, no reason I can explain. I think history will be kind to Vavi and find that he was on the right side of the moral divide. You have a lot of support. You even have a lot of the unions within the movement giving you support. How does that make you feel? And then Patrick Craven walking out saying that it's indefensible what's happened. Your comment on that?
I've served this movement for more than 30 years. I've not betrayed workers once. I have not betrayed the mandates that they have given me, and they have been hard mandates. When they needed a spokesperson against corruption that is threatening every gain, I was there and I spoke out on their behalf as mandated by them. When they wanted somebody to fight e-tolls and to be a champion against that struggle, I was there. Workers know that. You're not going to tell them all of a sudden that this man is an enemy and you shouldn't be having any association with them. They are going to refuse. And next week and every other day, we will be hitting the streets and you're going to see yourself.
Mr. Vavi, I thank you for joining us. We've run out of time. We've overrun over time a little bit. Thank you for joining us and giving your side of the story. Of course, we had Stumo Dlamini in yesterday giving the other side of the story. Some say it's a personal battle. Mr. Vavi thinks differently. He wants to represent the alternatives for the workers going forward. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you very much.
Now, let's take a look at our tweet of the day now. Well, this one comes from Mary Mugi, and she's asking, why are people still asking if Obama will still visit Kenya after the Garissa attack? Let's focus on the matter at hand and support Garissa in siege. Of course, Barack Obama is about well, he's just announced that he's going to visit the home of his father, the motherland, Kenya, where he's come from. It'll be the first time that he does so as of course, the President of the United States. Let's now quickly take a look at the front pages from around the globe. In Europe, the Times, jitters hit the markets yesterday as analysts warns investors that Britain faced the prospect of a weak and ineffective government. This after a near dead heat election. And in the USA, the Wall Street Journal, well, jitters hit the markets there as well as analysts warned investors that Britain faced the prospect of a weak and ineffective government after a dead heat election. Yeah, and of course, the New York International Times says there you will see hundreds on Wednesday mourned a prominent prosecutor, Mehmet Selim Kiraz, who was killed on Tuesday after forces stormed the courthouse in Istanbul, where he had been taken hostage by two militants following a case involving the death of a teenage boy in an anti-government protest. Quickly, let's just backtrack here. Let's have a look at what's happening around the country today. We start here in Johannesburg, where a man who made allegations on Facebook that the late Public Service and Administration Minister Collins Chabani was assassinated will appear in the Polokwane Magistrates Court today. Then, in Pretoria, the Magistrates Court there, the fraud and corruption case of the Police Crime Intelligence Unit former Chief Financial Officer Solly Lazarus will be filed today. Lazarus and the former head of logistics, Hein Barnard, are accused of stealing 370,000 rand. The trial will start in July. And then, on a lighter note, in Cape Town, organisers of the 21st Annual Klein Karoo National Arts Festival says they are all geared up and ready to go. The 10-day festival is set to begin in Oudtshoorn tomorrow. This is Newsroom. We'll be back with you after a short little break.
Cameroon's economic capital, our unique art collection is on display. Titled Yesterday's Memory, Tomorrow's Memory.
We are trying to preserve this heritage despite many things that have changed in the designing, embroidery and the model.
If I'm telling you, you don't like it, I call it defeat.
Join Musam Khalipi on Afro Showbiz every Saturday at 19:30 CAT.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom. During the launch of the 2015 Easter Road Safety Campaign, Minister of Transport, Dipuo Peters, said that even though a 26% decline in road deaths was encouraging, road deaths were still a major cause for concern in South Africa. The Easter Road death toll dropped from a staggering 201 in 2013 to 148 in 2014, this according to the Department of Transport. Now, coming to the number of road fatalities, South Africa is ranked the worst out of 36 countries in the International Transport Forum's Road Safety Report. Ahead of the Easter holiday, it's important for motorists to ensure that they are properly prepared before embarking on their holiday trip in order to reduce the likelihood of a motor vehicle accident. Congestion is expected to rise over the next couple of days on South Africa's roads, as thousands will be travelling to different destinations across the country for family and religious engagements. Now, from the taxi organisation Santaco, we are joined this morning by Mr. Bafana Magagula. Good morning, Mr. Magagula. Always nice to have you back with us.
Good morning, Evan, and thank you very much for the show.
Easter weekend, same story, road campaigns, but the carnage continues.
Evan, we are concerned, and that is why we're still on the road, we're still at taxi ranks. We're still everywhere where media gives us a chance to speak to our people. We are also very much concerned that this still continues. However, we want to thank those taxi drivers and owners who actually adhere to our calls in making sure that vehicles they put on the road are roadworthy. And we further appeal, and we will continue to appeal to them, because it is really a concern to us. Even one accident is an accident too much. We don't wish that there should be any accident at all on the roads.
Tlokomela campaign. Tell us the latest with the Tlokomela campaign. I know you've got original ways of trying to deal with the way that you guys look at these periods.
Our Tlokomela campaign, what we're busy doing now, we want to see if we can have it around the clock, day and night if possible, or whenever there's a taxi on the road. What we are busy doing now, on our curriculum at our academy, we are working on including a very large amount of courses in terms of just concentrating on road safety and safer driving to both our taxi owners and drivers. We also want to include some of the commuter organizations to be part of it, because within this education it's also to be extended to the commuters who are our passengers, in terms of them understanding exactly what to do when they are in the taxi, looking, for an example, at your safety belt, and looking also at they themselves must be able to look at the taxi itself before they embark on that taxi, and make sure that the taxi is in a safe condition, because it's their right and their lives that will be lost at the end of the day.
Here we see on screen now, we see roadworks. This is outside Maria here in Limpopo, where the traffic congestion will be massive over the weekend. That is a very positive development, because it's become such a dangerous stretch of road, especially around Easter, with millions and millions of people going there. Also, of course, Beit Bridge will be a huge point for you guys to manage.
Prior to this, we went on these major routes, inspecting them, and we've made announcement, and we continue to do so through media. For instance, where I am right now, that our drivers should please take more, must be more conscious when driving on the roads that are being constructed, and obey each and every a rule that is being set there. We've seen sometimes some drivers, they cut on the sides and leave the detour roads which are made there for them. We are saying that is unsafe. They should follow exactly, irrespective of how long it takes you.
You see, the numbers don't lie. We are the worst of the 36 countries that Transport International Forum on Road Safety have looked at. Why is it? Why do we drive so badly? We've got fantastic roads. We've got fantastic infrastructure. Why do we drive so badly and so irresponsibly?
Well, I wouldn't say exactly why. However, my opinion is that, you know, most of us, you find a man at my age is still having a learner's license, is still looking for a driver's license. If we can go back and stop saying these things and begin to say, road safety should begin at the very low level at school. For instance, I'm saying at your grade R's and grade 1s, so we grow with it. Looking at a person of my age, if you are going to get a license now, there's no time for you to gain experience. All you want to do, you've got the money, you just want to see yourself in a vehicle. I think education is actually the cause as well. We can blame your traffic officers, we can blame we can blame that the car is powerful, it's got speeds, it's got what. But if a person that is handling that machine is well experienced and he's got it in his heart, that will make a real difference.
Mr. Magagula, thank you for coming in today. I hope that it will be a less deadly Easter weekend. 148 last year. Let's see if we can bring that number down to be below 100. Thank you once again for joining us from Santaco. That's the National Taxi Association here in South Africa. That's Mr. Bafana Magagula. Now, some of your tweets. Now we're talking about there was a siege this morning. Once again in Kenya, insurgents attacked Garissa Uni siege. Worst way to wake up and begin a weekend, says George Ogala. Yes, it is. It is indeed. Brian Munene says, I wish all Kenyans can get calm as our security machineries get in control of the situation. Talking about the University of at Garissa, the siege there. Agatha says, we hope we'll rescue Edie and his colleagues at Garissa Uni. Students are innocent and they are under siege because the government has failed to tackle insecurity matters seriously rather than politicking a lot, says Onyango Konyango. And Peter Mwangi says, the government was told about the attack at Kenyan University, but maybe they never thought it would be this one. Talking about Garissa Uni siege. That's a developing story. Of course, it's news just in. We'll keep you updated how that story developed. Now for the picture of the day. And this is a heartbreaking picture that's been making the rounds on social media. This picture was taken by Nadia Abu Shaban, a photojournalist who is based in Gaza. Now, in the picture there, the 4-year-old girl that you see, she's named Hudia. Is a Syrian refugee with her hands in the air as a sign to surrender. This to the photographer taking the picture. Hudia thought the telephoto lens used to capture the image was a weapon. And she put her hands in the air immediately. Isn't that just the ultimate picture of sadness, of the world that we live in this, the most holiest of weeks in the Christian calendar, mind you. Now, let's take a look at what's happening on Newsroom's Facebook page today. The African National Congress will intervene to try and stop a looming split within COSATU. Party Secretary General Gwede Mantashe says the ANC cannot allow the Federation to perish. Then the United States and the United Nations have praised the electoral process in Nigeria while commending both candidates, especially Goodluck Jonathan, for putting the interests of the country above political ambitions. And then a video of the final seconds aboard the Germanwings plane that crashed in France last week has been discovered but has not yet been made public. You can find all of those stories and a whole lot more on our Newsroom Facebook page, or you can visit sabc.co.za/news for all the latest updated news. Time for us to take a break. You're watching Newsroom here on SABC News.
This week we are taking you around the continent, telling you stories about what makes Africa, Africa.
We now head to the Kenyan coast, where we meet a man using needles to fight a growing drug culture.
A recent study revealed that there are 850 drug addicts in Diani alone, with over 220 using injectable drugs such as heroin.
In my community, I've seen a lot of these people suffer.
The Journal, every Saturday at 1:30 on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. Let's just have a look at the stories making headlines today. Chaos has erupted at a university college in northern Kenya this morning. It's believed hostages have been taken by 5 masked gunmen who have also raided the university. The attack on the Garissa University College began at dawn during morning prayers. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack. Around 24 ships and a rescue helicopter are involved in a search for the remaining survivors of a Russian trawler. The trawler sunk off the Russian coast north of Japan, with at least 54 sailors confirmed dead. 63 people have been rescued, many suffering from hypothermia. Russian emergency services say drifting ice may have halted the vessel. Metro police officers are ready to act against those who ignore the rules of the road. This as the police department has urged motorists leaving Gauteng for the Easter weekend to be extra vigilant on the road. Meanwhile, the traffic at Moria in Limpopo is expected to flow much easier this year. Sonal has constructed a 5-kilometre road at the entrance to the ZCC church to ease congestion. Remember, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just search for Newsroom. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, back to you.
Thank you very much, Janine. Now, in September this year, Congo-Brazzaville will host the 50th anniversary of the All-Africa Games. The first games took place in Brazzaville in 1965. This year, all the continent's top athletes will return to Brazzaville for what promises to be the greatest athletic event of the decade. Now, to tell us more about this is the author of Connect with the Continent, a man who keeps us up to date with the latest trends in Africa. He travels all over the continent. But Terry, before we start with the All-Africa Games, I want to start in Kenya. We see there's the insurgency that's going on. Really, really sad news. It seems Africa is constantly at war with itself.
You know, it's very sad news. I think it's a response to President Kenyatta's crackdown on corruption and his military about to sort of move quite heavily against Al-Shabaab in the north. You know, it's not all bad news even. I mean, if you look to the west, if you look at the recent elections in Nigeria, you know, Africa's largest democracy, you have now President-elect Buhari coming in a very, by all means, peaceful election, and President Goodluck Jonathan kind of congratulating him. So you know, it's not all doom and gloom. There is brightness to be had, not as bright as your shirt, by the way, but
Terry,
there's a lot of good news on the continent at the moment.
It's that kind of week, you know. We can't all be grey and blues all the time. Let's talk about Nigeria, though. I was very impressed with what I saw. You know, the ticket that General Buhari kind of ran on a little bit was heavy anti-corruption. We know Nigeria suffers from, at times, institutionalized corruption. Do you think he could really make a dent or turn the ship, as it were, away from the kind of corrupt practices we've seen in recent times?
Well, you know, he's known to be Mr. Incorruptible. You know, he has been in power before, very briefly in, I think it was 85, when there was a military coup. He's spoken out very strongly around, first of all, stabilising the country in the north from a military point of view, and then dealing very heavy-handedly with corruption. So I think Nigerians believe that he's the man for the job. That's why they put him in power. I mean, it's the first time since 1960 that there has been a president who's not part of the sort of PDP. So it's a very, very big step. And I was on the phone this morning to some colleagues in Lagos, and they are absolutely ecstatic. They're hoping the transition will go well, and they're thrilled that he's there, and they reckon he's the guy.
Tell us about the mood. The mood must be quite jubilant in Nigeria at the moment. But then there is a threat of this transition not always being entirely peaceful. You have a different view, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you have the leader of the opposition, the now opposition party, or the PDP, conceding defeat quite gracefully and being acknowledged for that internationally, they're already talking that he's going to get the Mo Ibrahim Prize at the end of this year. You have a population that is just tired of nonsense. They want strong leadership, they want direction, and because he's coming from the north and he's essentially a Muslim president. I think you're going to see that's where most of the negativity and most of the drama happens. You're going to see a lot of support. He also won Lagos State, which is quite an important economic front. So I think you're going to see a slightly bumpy transition, but by Nigerian standards, pretty smooth.
And his running mate was Christian, which I thought also sent all the right messages. But let's move on to Congo Brazzaville, or 50th anniversary of the All Africa Games. What does it mean for Congo Brazzaville? And talk us through the importance of the All Africa Games.
Well, this is huge. I mean, the All Africa Games is essentially where all the top athletic talent from across the continent comes together every 4 years. The last games were in Mozambique in 2011. They were not a great success. And the Brazzavillians have taken this very, very seriously. Even as early as last year, they kicked in with the planning. They are planning to put a real spectacular together to welcome Africa back to the genesis of athletics and the All Africa Games, which, as you indicated, was in '65 in Brazzaville. The president has come out very strongly. I met a few weeks ago with the chef de mission for the games, and that entire team is convinced and assured everybody that they're going to pull off an amazing spectacle for everybody across the continent to see.
Tell us about Brazzaville. I know you've visited there a lot, and you've had a lot of fun in Brazzaville. It's a city that sits right across the Congo River from Kinshasa and really looks at it almost, doesn't it?
It's crazy. I mean, you have these two capital cities sitting there, staring at each other across the river. On the one side, you have Brazzaville. You have 5 kilometers of water, and then you have Kinshasa. And they don't always like each other. And in fact, the last time I was there a few weeks ago, they were playing each other in one of the last round games, and Congo beat Brazzaville, and they weren't happy.
Yeah, they were not happy. But the expectation is that this will be the kind of sort of shot in the arm that Brazzaville needs to really re-establish itself.
Completely. I mean, the last major sporting activity that took place in the Congo Basin was when Ali was there in the 60s.
The Rumble in the Jungle.
The Rumble in the Jungle, and I think they're looking to replicate that.
Oh, fantastic news. That's great. I'm sure, Terry, you'll be there, and I know you'll keep us updated, not just there, but what's happening in Nigeria on your travels. Of course, you can download some of Terry's travels also on our social pages, and I've got a web address here, Terry, where you went on a jet ski. Is that right?
Yeah, I kind of said, I'm in Brazzaville. I had a couple of hours spare. What's the craziest thing I could do on that day? And I said, well, let me see if I can jet ski from Brazzaville across the river to Kinshasa.
Which you did.
Which I did, sort of.
And you can download that on our page. We'll make it available for everyone. Thanks very much, Terry. It's always nice to have Terry with us. Terry travels all over the African continent. He tells us what's trending, what people are doing, and the picture emerging is a very positive one. Africa is a continent, a place on the march. Thanks, Terry. Now, something that's not that positive is card fraud. It's become commonplace here in South Africa as load shedding affects us all. To combat this, the Payments Association of South Africa has started imposing fines on companies who have not signed up to 3D secure verification. What is this verification? Well, it's the layer that makes sure the cardholder is who they say they are, that the merchant receives their payments as they should, and that fraud is given the cold shoulder right from the outset. Now, to tell us more, we are joined from Cape Town by PayU CEO Johan Dekker. Good morning, Johan. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Evan. Good morning to the viewers out there. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Yeah, let's start with just how safe the online shopping space is in South Africa. We hear terrible reports, don't we?
Yeah, unfortunately, the news out there is not that great for the online guys. I think we need to be careful how we view this. If you look at some of the stats that have come out, there's a 23% increase in 2013-2014 in online fraud, and it equates to about 450 million in the year. I think, if speaking on behalf of the merchants, the online merchants done a lot in terms of curbing online fraud. A lot of what we're seeing is that the cards and the data get skimmed offline and then come and used online. And I think that's the rollout of 3D Secure implemented by PASA will bring a barrier of entry to the fraudsters that I think greatly would reduce that fraud risk coming into the online world.
Tell us about 3D Secure and how 3D Secure is going to change the game for us, the consumers.
So in essence, as you stated before, 3D Secure is a second factor auth mechanism that makes use of not just the card data that the user have in terms of what they have got on them, but as well as another authentication layer via SMS or OTP PIN or an ATM PIN or a password that the user then authenticates their transaction. And in that way, it will change the space for the fraudsters to come online, and they not just only need the card to skimmed or the card data to do the fraud, but also hold of the user's phone, and that creating the barrier to entry. From terms of the user experience, often the security and the ease of use are at odds with one another. But I think in the case of 3D Secure, it brings in that extra security layer that would create a more secure environment for everybody online, and it would benefit not just only the users, but also the merchants, bringing more comfort to the online experience.
How are we going to educate customers on the benefits of 3D Secure, and where would an individual then get access to this kind of information and to the technology?
So I think in terms of education is key. It's one of the key drivers of adoption of any new technology in this space. We urge all our merchants, we give them questions and answers to what they need to put on their site to educate their users. I think also more need to be done in mass media like this forum to educate users of the process and the change and how they will do online transaction. I know the issuing banks has also sent out communication to their cardholders to inform them of the change in process and what the steps are, so that when the user comes online, that he's familiar with that process and doesn't drop out, because up to date users have been sort of communicated to them that if you're not clear of the process or you're not comfortable, that you should rather not continue. And we need to create that comfort with this new process that ultimately benefits not just the consumer but also the merchants.
Johan, are you confident that this is going to be the magic bullet that's going to secure our finances online?
I think 3D Secure will goes a great way to securing the online transactions, but like in any, it's a cat and mouse game with the fraudsters. There's no silver bullet here. I think merchants still need to have a comprehensive anti-risk strategy and deploy not just only 3D Secure, but there's fraud engines, there's antivirus on the environment, firewall protection, and also just watch out their transactions, look for patterns in their transactions. Again, 3D Secure, I think it's a brilliant program to raise the bar of entry, but you know it's an evolving game, and innovation is key.
Johan, what other advice can you give to our consumers out there who are bombarded with technology, new technology, information and the like in the online space? How do you keep it simple and safe?
I think users need to go to trusted sites, use trusted merchants, and if they're uncertain about a merchant, going onto a merchant for the first time is to do a little bit of homework. Search and read up on the merchant, look at the merchant terms in terms of what's their return policies, and also look for 3D Secure implementation on the merchant, which will also be an indicator that it's a trusted merchant that have integrated into 3D Secure and using security mechanisms to de-risk their transaction.
Johan, thank you very much for helping us with that kind of information. It is certainly very worrying. The last year alone, we've seen a 23% increase in South African issued credit card fraud. The number is up to above 450 million rand, and if it continues on this graph, we are all at risk. Thank you once again for joining us. That's the COO of PayU, Johan Dekker, joined us live there from Cape Town to talk about the scourge that is card fraud that is very much on the rise here in South Africa. Finally, today is World Autism Awareness Day, a day where we are able to shed some light on autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, which affects about 1 in 68 children. There's no cure, and experts are still unsure about the exact causes. This complex brain development disorder occurs at a young age and is often misunderstood, as the children are often intellectually disabled, have difficulties in motor coordination, as well as attention and physical health issues, while others excel in music, math and art. Now, to talk to us more about autism, we are joined in studio by the National Director of Autism South Africa, Sandy Oostwald. Very good morning to you, Sandy. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Tell us about some of the awareness campaigns. It's wonderful to have a day always like World Autism Day and the like, but what's happening around the country today and then normally?
Well, this day actually was declared by the United Nations, so it's actually an international day of awareness. So we have joined the campaign really to wear blue and light buildings up and landmarks in blue in honor of those with autism. So for instance, this year we're lighting up the Nelson Mandela Bridge, the Nelson Mandela statue in Sandton Square is being lit up. In the Eastern Cape, the 1820 Settlers Monument is having a blue ribbon in honor of people with autism. There's many different companies that have been involved, private families, schools, individuals. Everybody's really just trying to get the awareness out there where it's needed so badly.
Let's talk about the autistic child. I think there are many. There's a particular stereotype of an autistic child that they're quiet genius. Often that's not the case, though. Can you explain the difference in the sort of types of diagnosis that we deal with when dealing with autistic children?
Yes, sure. In 2013, the diagnosis label was actually changed to become autism spectrum disorder. So what that means is that autism falls across a very wide spectrum. So on one side of the spectrum, for instance, you would have an individual that has very low support needs, that may actually work quite independently in the open labour market, just with slight adjustments to their environment to help them cope. And on the other end of the spectrum, you'll have an individual that's going to need full support for the rest of their lives. And you'll have millions of people in between. It really just depends, and each individual is very unique and very different, which is what actually makes it so complex.
What about smaller communities and rural communities where these children are often misunderstood and ill-treated and abused in some cases? What kind of programs are we putting in place to help those that are really truly at risk?
It's actually frightening, the stories that we have out in our rural communities because of the misunderstanding and the stigma that surround our children. It's often misdiagnosed as a devil possession or the other day I was doing training with public healthcare workers, which are really working on grassroots level. And I was asked how to tell the difference between a child with autism and a Satanist.
Yeah.
And these are the people that really are going to be the first point of call for our families. So we're running extensive awareness campaigns, trying to train up as many professionals in the health and education sector as possible, so that stigma really is eradicated.
What about the family, if they're battling or if they're unable to care for an autistic child? Where can they get help? Where do they start to look for help?
What I'd really advise is that their family get in contact with Autism South Africa, and we can then refer them to the local organisations in their area. There are different campaigns and organisations across the country, really too numerous to name now. But if the centre point of call is us as the national body, we can then refer to the people that will be able to help and support directly.
Well, Sandy, thank you for joining us today. It's National Autism Day. We should all really be aware of what is happening with this disease in all of our communities. 1 in 68 children around us suffer from this disease. Often it's untreated. Thank you, Sandy Oostwald, who is the National Director of Autism South Africa. Today is World Autism Day. That's where we leave it for you to think about. Newsroom, broadcast live from our studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. We don't repeat the show anymore. We just stream it live on YouTube during this time. We also leave it on demand, available on our YouTube channel for you to see. We love to interact with you and we enjoy your contributions as well as your opinions. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom. You know we love it in the morning.